And joining me right now is Mr. E.A. Koetting. How are you, sir?
I'm doing spectacular. How about yourself, Michael?
I am fantastic. I'm feeling great. I'm excited to finally be talking to you again. And I believe the last time we spoke, I believe you were co-hosting the show with me.
I gotta tell you, so I've thought a lot about that show.
Really?
Yeah, because this was our show with Michael Aquino.
Right.
If we're thinking about the same thing. And,
yes.
And that really has, one thing is that man is a legend in my world, and I think really did some good work in, I think, exposing the positive side of what all the different faiths and religions can bring, because there was, you know, as soon as he linked himself up with Satanism, he got, I mean, some of the most intense backlash, completely undeservedly being accused of pedophilia and all kinds of things, and he had to fight his entire life. I watched this man fight the good fight of really standing up for the truth and exposing the truth. And the advice that he passed on, one of the pieces of advice, because I specifically asked him in that show, you know, what do you have to tell us, you know, young Satanists coming up? And he said, keep your heads down. And that was chilling to me. That was chilling to me, because at first I was thinking, what's this guy talking about? Keep your heads down. He saw what I'm now seeing, and this is Satanic Panic 2.0. We're seeing a lot of the things unraveling at the seams, and it's kind of getting scary out there. And I think he saw it, and I hadn't seen it yet, but I definitely see what he was talking about now.
Oh yeah, and that's one of the questions I did have to ask you here, and we'll go over all of that as we make our way. But once again, thank you so much for being a part of the program, Mr. E.A. Koetting. And of course, yes, we were referring to the interview that we both conducted with Dr. Michael Aquino. That was a great time with both of you, by the way.
It was. It really was. It was a remarkable conversation. It was a dream come true for me, just as far as being able to actually interact with a person, like I said, is a legend and a hero to me. And it really is amazing, because when you listen to Michael Aquino, when you actually read his books, when you speak with him, he's probably one of the most upstanding people I've ever known.
Exactly.
Or even known up. And it was really required, I think, at that time for the representative of Satanism to be that. And he held that flag really well.
You know, I still get comments all the time and emails and what have you about that interview that we did with him. It gets brought up all the time.
Yeah. No, and it was a I could be mistaken, but I think that may have been his very last interview.
I think it might have been, to be honest.
And so that
what an honor.
For me, that adds another chilling factor to it, where it was the last conversation, and he had some sobering things he was seeing with politics, but also on the social front, the religious front, and we're seeing a lot of that coming to fruition now.
That we are. All of it is coming full circle, and once again, I'd like to do another one of those with you in the future. My listeners enjoyed your take on things, and I think we did well together on here.
No, I'd absolutely be open to it.
Yeah, we'll definitely do it again. And Eric, I mean, the last time we talked, the world was, it wasn't quite like it is right now. And my God, the last time I looked up, I looked into what you were up to, and, I typed your name in. And holy shit, I recently discovered there was a horrific incident that occurred back on June 2020. And you were basically thrown under the proverbial bus for it.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a pretty common understanding with anybody who's actually seen the reports, that it's obvious that this is a complete slash piece, and we'll talk about that and why that came about and what this attack is all about. But it's obvious just from the face value looking at it. Well, wait a minute, you're making stretches that aren't there. But to kind of back up for anybody who hasn't heard about this, which I'm sure a lot of people maybe haven't, back in 2020, this young man that was obviously having severe mental health issues. That's another part of the what I believe to be the apocalypse we're in the middle of. Is a lot of people are going crazy.
They're going insane. He's just one of many.
One of the many, and it's a weekly thing to turn on the news now and see a mass shooting. This is really a terrifying time to live in, and we'll get into this a bit later. I don't think it's accidental either. I think that this is a very purposeful. There have been division has been seeded in just the right ways to make a lot of people hate each other where they normally wouldn't. It's really disturbing to see. Americans have never been more at war with each other. We are absolutely leading to a civil war, but it's not just on this continent. We're leading to some pretty heavy division that I think is not accidental.
Absolutely, it's manufactured, no doubt. This is all part of someone's agenda, it seems like. And
for sure.
My God, yes. We're so heavily divided, as you said. It's never been quite as dire as it is now.
Right. Well, and that's the thing, is that there is an evolutionary advantage to being cautious of people you don't know, being cautious of people that aren't like you. But and so we have that instinct, and we can evolve out of it, absolutely. And I think for the most part, a lot of us really have. But then the for certain, the corporations, the marketing corporations specifically, and politicians know how to tap that to get the reptilian brainstem to wake back up and to get us to hate each other. That way we vote for the right party and or buy the right product. And it's it really is. It's the weaponization of our own minds against us. I see this with social media, with every aspect of media. Every aspect of media that's not an open conversation like we're having. I
Absolutely.
think this is the only way to actually come to any understanding of truth, is to sit and talk about it.
And TV is the ultimate weapon. It's definitely used to install fear in you and what to think and what not to do, but it doesn't really teach you how to think, though, unfortunately.
Well, when the television was first invented, the leader of China, from the story says, as soon as he heard about it, he says, we need to have one of these in every household. This is the greatest weapon of mass mind control ever, and we're living that now.
Yep.
But to go back, this disturbed fellow.
Yes, sir.
He killed two women.
Two sisters.
Two sisters. Okay, yeah, and. Did this as part of a really the only word I can think of is childish pact with the demon Lucifuge Rophicael. And I say childish because it's not rooted in any kind of understanding of metaphysics or even of what's possible. For instance, he's got an absurd amount that he wants to get through the lottery.
Right.
Never once have I ever advised, nor would I advise somebody to use the lottery to try to make money. It's there are a million ways that you can use magic and that you can even mundanely make yourself some money, and the lottery is not one of them. It's actually. The lottery is basically a tax on people that can't do math and understand that odds just are not there. And it is, the lotteries were first implemented really as the way for the states to be able to tax the poorest people. They had written off all the taxes that the wealthiest were on paper being taxed the most, but they had to create a loophole that would still get the poorest people, who are usually going to be the least educated and the most willing to try things that are really hopeless ventures, to try to get that. So anyways, that was built into his pact. He wanted to win the lottery. He also wanted, I looked over his pact just enough to go, oh, this is obviously nothing that's really magical at all. This guy's not actually engaged in anything that's ritual magic or Satanism. He's engaged in complete psychotic delusion. Well, that's not the stretch that the BBC decided to take with this.
No, not at all. And just to quickly add here, for those wondering about all this, by the way, if you don't already know this, a lot of people who actually win the lottery, they end up losing it all, or something tragic happens to them. So be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and you do see an instant disintegration of that person's personal life. That their friends, their family all turn against them.
That's right.
It's not, and wealth is not the best goal to have with anything.
It's not really the end all. Unfortunately.
No. And it can come and go. I've had moments of having a lot more money than I knew what to spend, and I've had moments of trying to figure out how to pay the bills, and that's not what makes me happy.
That's right. And now you are getting the Alex Jones treatment.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So and that's exactly well. Besides the lawsuits, luckily that I haven't done anything that could even be construed as illegal in this case. This fellow, because he had written this patch to Lucifuge, and I have recently written a book and released a book on Lucifuge. That was really the only connection. Well, and then he had visited my forum, which is open to anybody. You don't have to pay for it. You don't have to give any credentials. You just go sign up for an account, and you can post anything.
And you're in there,
forum.
yeah.
Yeah, and so this fellow came onto my forum. He asked a couple honestly jackassy questions that didn't make any sense to anybody, and then he left. And then about 2 years later is when he committed these murders.
He was a lurker, in my opinion. He was just lurking the whole time.
Yeah, but so the BBC got this story, and they basically said he was inspired and motivated by me, and besides, again, we don't have any we combed through all of our routes of people being able to access my videos on YouTube, my newsletters. He wasn't getting any of this. He was not in no way interacting with anything I was actually putting out. So the BBC writes this story to link it that he was definitely inspired by me and by my works.
Yeah.
Now, the fun inside story is one of my really loyal fans works at the BBC in the printing area.
Oh, so they gave you a heads up.
Well, so she saw this coming. She saw it coming off of the print, and she looks at it. And she says she went to her editor and says, "Look, this story is completely bogus. I know this guy. I've been following his works. This is the complete opposite."
Yeah.
Her editor said it's already been paid for.
Ooh, okay, interesting.
So now, okay, so then the author of that report then took it on himself to take his own report that he had just written and take that to all of my social media accounts and say, "See, this guy is bad. Here's this report saying so," using his own report that's completely nothing is verified on his report, nothing is actually documented, or he has absolutely no evidence, but he's using his own report successfully, like you said, Alex Jones treatment. And at first it does just seem like this rogue BBC editor and journalist going to town. But as soon as I heard that it was paid for, that really set off the alarm bells. Okay, who? And this isn't the first time I've seen this. Excuse me. With when I started seeing a lot of the meme pages coming out on me that were people make fun memes of me making fun of me in every which way.
Right.
I started. Well, I actually had somebody pull me aside and say, "Look, those aren't people having fun. Those are people being paid."
Exactly. Yeah.
And so there is an absolute agenda.
That's a campaign against you.
Mm-hmm. And to be fair, the entire time that I was on YouTube, that I was being allowed on Facebook to talk, I was really surprised that the system let me just do my thing. I was really surprised that it took them that long to shut me down, because I am absolutely exposing secrets of power. I'm taking things that have been hidden in the Vatican, things that were hidden by the Knights Templar, things that are hidden by every secret society around today, and I'm taking those and just giving them out to the public. So I figured at some point I was going to get some backlash.
and then the day actually came, and what's crazy is they remove you, yet they still have questionable material on YouTube all the time. I mean, let's not even mention rap, for instance, and what's being advocated there.
Oh, that's,
I mean, it's a little funny to me, but
Well, and even with that, we're reaching a really scary point. See, I'm a bit of a patriot. When I signed up for the Marine Corps when I was 17 years old, and I really, I was a Boy Scout. I've always really been patriotic, and I believed in what the United States of America was about. And I am terrified that everything that's in that Constitution is just being lit on fire right now. That you literally can't. You don't have the freedom to say what you want to say. And it's not just a matter of that they shut down your Facebook. That's fine. Shut down my Facebook. I also had my retirement accounts returned to me.
Really?
I also I'm not able to rent an Airbnb.
Oh wow!
So there are certain hotels I can't rent at now. So what's happened? And this is something Alex Jones is trying to alert people to as well, that this is the full institution of what's known as the social credit score. So we've been really afraid that China is testing this out and someday it'll be here. No, it's here now.
I hope you people are listening. It's happening.
It is. I'm gonna say I think that myself, I look at everything that I've done and I have done. I have a completely clear conscience about what I put out into the world. I look at Alex Jones. Well, I'm a little questionable about him, but I think that he's doing what he feels is right. And as far as Sandy Hook, I don't know that he was wrong in anything that he actually said. And so I'm looking at this going, what's going on here? There is a massive attempt to
straight out silence people.
To silence people, and to make, with this Paul Pelosi thing, I'm not necessarily questioning the narrative, but I'm really interested in the fact that you can't question the narrative.
That's right. The fact that you can't really talk about it without facing any scrutiny yourself is never a good sign. And of course, that whole story makes zero sense to me, by the way.
It makes sense if you can look at it outside of the story they're trying to tell you.
Well, right, exactly. I could draw my own conclusion. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I mean, but then again, exact same thing. When I was in 7th grade when Oklahoma City bombing happened.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And right away, I'm looking at it going, okay, if you turn the dial down, you can't hear what the reporters are trying to tell you. It's very clear what happened here. And same thing with 9/11. Same thing with all of these major events. It's like, wait a minute, what January 6th, the same thing. What you're telling us happened is not what happened.
Yeah, we are being told half-truths or
At
just
best.
bold lies.
So now here's the fun part, though. I had a choice to make. This is trying to silence me. Do I just go back to cabinetry? And I'm going to be honest. I had a really great life in cabinetry. I made good money. I came home and clocked out, and nobody bothered me, and it was great. And so I kind of thought, that's there for me. But gosh, I love a good fight. So,
well, right.
So I looked at that one. They're using a technology that I don't understand. And, I understood using technology like Facebook, YouTube, which was funny because now that I look at it, those are completely free. Anybody can sign up for it. They don't really cost any investment at all. It's just a completely free way of just putting your mind out there. Okay, that's not what's being used against me. What's being used against me are paid attacks. Okay, cool. So let me start seeing how this works. So I bought myself a bundle. I think it was like 10 press releases. This is my first time in my life ever getting a press release. So I'm asking all kinds of just newbie questions of the people helping me with this. But they helped me just write up some press releases that I just advertised different products. Just so I could learn how to actually just get stuff out there. And it's I didn't misuse this technology, but I saw how easily it could be for me to write an article that's completely bogus, no facts at all. I could easily just cite somebody, make somebody up, make up a phone number and an email address is all you need for a citation. And it's about $500 to put an article out there that gets seeded into some of the biggest papers.
Yeah, it just gets plastered all over the place.
And there doesn't have to be a speck of truth in it. And so that really has brought me, it's made my engagement with the news a different thing, that I look at the news now and every article I see, I'm looking, who paid for this?
Yeah, it came from somewhere, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, but the, one of the things about being shut down, this is one of the big things I think really irritated people about Alex Jones is, you can get shut down on Facebook and YouTube and Twitter, and that really doesn't matter. It hasn't really affected my ability to do my business, to live my life. And that's where it gets scary, is they saw that Alex Jones had a similar thing. Okay, he started streaming videos from his own website, doing his own thing. That's really cool. That wasn't enough. And so they wanted to make sure they came after him. And specifically, I was paying close attention to his so-called trials. And the thing that they kept saying is, we've got to shut him down. We've got to silence him.
Yeah.
Make him not able to speak anymore. That's terrifying, because that is becoming the norm.
It's becoming the new normal, and that's exactly what they want to do to all of us now. That's the goal now. It's pretty crazy. And by the way, the report from the BBC stated that Daniel Hussein, 19, killed Biba Henry and Nicole Smallman in a park in Wembley, North London, by the way. And they're saying he was on an active occult forum run by you. And they're saying whose writings have encouraged murder. Boo, scary.
Yeah.
The BBC revealed. So yes, Hussein was jailed for life on Thursday. That's when back when this article was written, and must spend at least 35 years in prison.
What?
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm reading here.
Did you say 35 or 3 to 5?
No, 35 years in prison.
Even that, you can
That's
stab
crazy.
2 people to death and only do 35 years in prison.
35 years. So if you have maybe someone that you don't like, you're going to get 35 years.
That.
I'm just saying.
I'm not saying that.
I'm saying that, yes. Eric is not saying that. I'm saying that, by the way, for the record. But yes.
But and really, this did cause me to kind of take a step back and evaluate, where do I stand? And really where I do stand is if somebody has offended you, or specifically if somebody is attacking you and they won't stop attacking you, at that point, I do think that the use of baneful magic, of black magic to curse that person, to make them leave you alone, is perfectly acceptable. Obviously, if somebody comes to your home to try to hurt you, I think lethal force is, any force you can to stop that person is fine. But if you've got a grudge, I've got no issue with somebody reaching out with black magic to maybe harm that person or teach that person a lesson. Never in any circumstances should you break the law and go actually physically harm another person.
Yes, so for the record, you're not advocating anyone to go physically harm someone over a dispute, in other words.
No, and here's part of the reason that I actually would recommend a curse is that in a curse, you're going to release your energy. Usually you're stabbing some sort of doll or something like that. You're doing something that actually gets your aggression out of you. So that's the first positive thing that it does, because that's a poison that you have inside of you, and it gets it out. And then my view is that then there is a balancing of energy. If that person has actually wronged you, that's going to be balanced out. And it basically does invoke what most people will call karma. It makes that energy balance out. I become restored, and that person usually has to lose something. And so I do feel like that's for me the morally justified way of really handling it when I can't let something go, when somebody has really offended me to that degree. Most people would think that cursing people is a no. I think that's a pretty good way. So far, it's legal too.
Well, yes, it's also part of ritual magic. I mean, there's plenty of times you write something and you draw something, and then you fold it and you burn it. There's all sorts of things you do.
For sure. And a lot of people have, I've spoken to so many people who've done this without really the use of magic, that they'll start really just being filled with hate towards someone. And they'll intentionally start wishing that person evil, and that those things, I used to have a girlfriend that she was really kind of a nasty person, and she
was a succubus.
Pretty much. When somebody would cut her off in traffic, or whatever, she'd say, "I hope you die in a fire."
Whoa, it's pretty dark.
Whoa, yeah, and that was a constant thing. And I'm like, that whether that person dies in a fire or not, that's generating a lot of negative energy around you.
Yeah.
And there is a potential that is going to catch if you've got enough hatred behind you and you're spewing those words out. I have seen that do more devastation than an actual ceremonial curse.
Yeah, it comes back to you.
It not only does it come back to you, but the thing that you become to release that, it's that. And
that's not normal, though, to have that much vitriol and hate. It's not normal.
Well, and here's the thing, Michael, is that the pursuit of the kind of power that you can achieve in black magic, that's not a normal pursuit. Just about everybody, not just about every single person that I know that's drawn to the left-hand path of the occult, all come from traumatized backgrounds. That this is an overreaction, an overcompensation for a loss of power early on in life.
That's also how I feel about those who are overly religious as well.
It is, you're leaning, well, so
it's the same thing in my opinion. You're both,
yeah.
Whatever side of the coin you're on, Satanist, Christian, whatever religion, it's all the same thing. Everyone out there, you're all hoping for something to happen, and people will go the distance to get what they want. That's what happens. You're always wishing for something, no matter if it's make me rich, heal my cancer, whatever.
Yeah,
it's all the same thing. You're conjuring these things.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I'll tell you what, that is the trap of all of it is specifically for people who are on the path of black magic or witchcraft, is feeling like you can only engage your spirituality if you have something to ask for. And that's something I've really had to consciously veer away from. And I'll just enter into my temple in my home, light a candle, and I'm not asking for anything. I'm just connecting. And I think that's the more but there is something, you're onto something though, with the extremely religious and the extremely magical people who are pushed to these extremes. I think it is rooted. Well, I don't know that I would say it's rooted in a trauma, because here's where I don't know that it's the effect of the trauma, or if the trauma is awakening the mind, opening you to things. I know that in my childhood traumatic experiences, I had to find some place to go to, and somehow that benefited me.
Right, and that's also how I view the Satanic Bible to a certain degree. It's like a self-help book in a way. It's all about self-preservation and becoming your own sort of congregation in a way.
It is, in really looking at it, I was 16 years old when I was really thoroughly investigating the Satanic Bible. And I remember having a discussion with my mom about it. It was one of the first times she ever actually wanted to know what I was up to. And so talking to her about it, yeah, here are some of the things. And I just went through the, I think it's 9 satanic statements. And these are kind of like, what would be compared to the 10 commandments. It's kind of the 9 values that you live by. And they are really humanistic. And that's actually what she said at the end of that conversation. She goes, he shouldn't have called it the Satanic Bible. It should be called like the Human Bible, because it really is kind of a map on how to be human without all these religious and social structures.
Right.
But there is something. Here's the thing. This is what I believe that Dr. Aquino was really onto, is and LaVey didn't want to be too loud about this, is that they did presence the Prince of Darkness, that they did these rituals, and it's not just psychodrama, that it's not just humanism, that they actually met with Satan.
That's what some people believe. No doubt.
Yeah, and there are definitely people who have come in the Church of Satan after and have are putting out this message of that this is all psychological, that Satan is not a real figure. He's part of ourselves. I think he's definitely part of ourselves, especially as we become more and more Satanists. He is within us, but that he is also an independent being with his own agenda.
Right. And Eric, we'll go over the trial just a little bit here. Just to get it out of the way really quickly.
Oh, for sure.
I just to add some more backstory. The trial heard of a demonic pact, and that's what we were talking about. Yes, this demonic pact in which he committed to sacrificing women in return for money and power. And of course, Eric, they listed a few drug and weapon charges on you.
Oh yeah,
but
I've been a bad boy.
But in my opinion, that's part of life sometimes.
I'll tell you what. It's been part of my life. When I exited the Marine Corps, the brotherhood that I kind of got associated with right away after that was the Mexican mafia, and got into trafficking drugs and whatever. And so I had a pretty wild life when I was in 2003, my daughter was born, and that changed everything. I was on a path of complete, not just self-destruction, but I was absolutely becoming a danger to everyone around me. And then my daughter's born, and it completely changes my life. I that was the fork in the road that I just couldn't resist. And yeah, still to me, she's here. I'm a single father raising her for 17 years now, about to put her through college, and it's been the best choice ever for sure, because I was going down a remarkably dark path, and I think that has allowed me to be able to understand where people who are hopeless are coming from. That's one of the big things, because a lot of things that they were able to look, as the BBC is doing this digging, they're able to look into some of the things that I had written when I was 18 years old, and I was angry and I wanted to blow the whole world up for sure. And I was hoping for a disastrous apocalypse. And so they were able to pull that. I'm like, yeah, no, that's a very real part of who I was. And because of that perspective, I found out that's not the way to go. There is a path to power. There's a path to individuality, and you should walk that path. But that path does not lie in destruction. But that wouldn't be a message that I could even understand myself had I not seen it face to face and had to look the other way. I had to turn and make another choice. And so I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I myself have had the craziness of thoughts to go do horrible things, like this young man did.
Sure.
But you don't do it.
But you don't act out in that way.
And you know what? And I'll tell you what, for myself, when I have found myself getting to that frightening point, I have very successfully asked for help. I've gone to therapists. I've gone even to religious leaders in churches I don't belong to and said, help me. And people will help you. You just have to ask for it. That's another thing with this Daniel Hussein. There were many opportunities for him to be helped. He didn't want help.
It seems like that is definitely the case. And furthermore, just like Alex Jones, just like Andrew Tate, just like Nick Fuentes, and many more, you now have been removed from basically all of social media, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And I have to ask, and I hope this isn't too personal.
Yeah.
But how is your daughter taking this? I'm sure she heard already, and I always wonder about everyone's like family. Like Alex Jones and Andrew Tate and all these other people, how their family perceives some of the things that are written about, their old man or their friend, their uncle, or whatever they are in their family. So obviously your daughter knows about all this, correct?
Yeah. So one of the things that's been really, really valuable to me. Yeah. It's also kind of hurt me in some ways, is that I am extraordinarily honest, and so that's hurt me in the fact that there are negative things you can find about me, because when I've had those thoughts, I put them in writing and I publish them to the world. Right. And so that honesty goes so much deeper with people in my personal life. Exactly. Yes. To the point, to the point that everybody around me is kind of uncomfortable because I just tell them everything. And so with my daughter, I actually had, she knew about this, just as quickly as I did, and I just sit her down and say, here's what's being said, here's the reality behind it, here, and kind of dissect it. And so, with that, the people who actually know me have that they see through this. Anybody that's actually had any interaction with me sees through this. And so that is, the main thing I've seen, and even people who don't know me, most strangers who have never heard of me in their life, that are seeing the news reports that have come out about this, they're looking at it just going, this is completely bogus. The only people that are really jumping on it are people that already were geared towards that agenda. And that is what the media and social media is becoming, is a place that people can go to validate themselves rather than to actually have conversations. But as far as the social media aspect, that was one of the biggest blessings in my life. I do honestly feel like that was Satan answering a prayer of mine, where I was being driven absolutely crazy by Facebook and YouTube, and by the fact that everybody thought that I was always accountable to them. That if they asked a question, I had to answer it. If I posted a video, the whole thing was out of control. And I actually very intentionally had a moment where I had invoked Satan, and I said, look, I need you to get whatever it is. I don't care if it costs me money, I don't care if it costs me relationships, whatever it is that's driving me insane, get it out of my life. And about a week later, I lost my Facebook. A week after that, I lost my YouTube. And at first that was pretty devastating, but that's actually been one of the best blessings in my life, because it does distract you from real reality. Having your phone in your hand, looking at it, scrolling through, wondering what other people are thinking, what they ate for dinner, or how they feel about you, looking to see if they gave you a heart or if they gave you a thumbs up. Because a thumbs up's not enough anymore for people. It's got to be a heart, because a thumbs up now means like middle finger.
That's funny.
It's like it's a whole ecosystem of neediness, and just being able
to cut away from that, yeah.
Yeah, being forced to not interact with that, because my whole since the invention of Facebook, the entire time I'm on it, I was going, I hate this. I don't want to be doing this, but I have to for my brand. I have to for my business. And when that rug got yanked out from me, well, okay, now I don't have to anymore. And it was actually the best blessing of my life. I'm happier than ever before.
Yeah, I could see that. No more answering all these questions that people had for you and they expect you to answer.
Yeah, and you know, I have migrated my entire video library, almost 1,000 videos, over from YouTube, is now on Odyssey, just Odyssey at EA Koetting. So that's all there, and I do a weekly live chat every Wednesday at noon Mountain Time. So I am available for questions if people have questions, but it's like in that window of time, you know, and then I'm going to log out and I'm going to spend time with my daughter. I'm going to go, you know, garden in the backyard. I'm going to do things in the real world, because that's what's really important. And there is a really concerning thing I'm saying, where with Meta, with virtual reality, and everybody's doubling down on on what they can do with social media. It seems like there's an attempt to try to make the virtual world seem like it's better than this world.
I agree. Yes,
that's a danger. This world is that you can't get away from the things you can actually touch and feel. And I'm really concerned that there's a push to this. It does make me wonder if people behind that push know something about what's going to happen with this world. I don't know.
It's pretty frightening, but yes, man is hoping to mesh with machine eventually, and that's when AI and, you know, we get all deep into that. But in my opinion, I'm not sure if I would want to live forever.
Ooh,
or maybe I do.
Yeah.
Who knows?
I really don't. I don't think I would. I don't. You know, to the point of, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know how hard I would fight against my own death. Let's say I had cancer or some other disease, that I don't know how intensely I would try to fight it. I feel like, I mean, I've seen, I can leave my body, I can get up right now and walk out of my body and enter into the other worlds. I know that there's nothing to be afraid of. I know exactly what's going to happen, and I know how to take control of it. So the death of this body doesn't bother me at all.
Doesn't deter you in any way.
No, no.
Understood.
No. It's, you know, that's honestly, I think the result of having worked necromancy for the last 2 years. I really avoided necromancy for most of my life. It was kind of a little dark thing in the corner I didn't want to really pay attention to. But then when I really started working with necromancy, I've gotten to the point I've got a skeleton hung up on the wall here, and I've got a whole death altar that I meditate on daily. And every day I'll kneel, I'll light some candles, and I specifically imagine myself dead, or on my deathbed, or at my own funeral in my coffin, hearing people talking about me and hearing what the last words they might have are, and actually feeling that moment of my own death, and just embracing that just day after day. And it does, every time when I come out of it, I feel like I've got an intense acceptance. You know, okay, well, I've faced that. If that's what happens to me today, that's okay. But there's also, on the flip side of that coin, an intense gratitude every day. Like, I'm still here. And I went through a pretty heavy depression right after getting shut down from social media. I felt like the world was rejecting me. And
oh my, I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, you know, it did. You know, it did get really intense. I mean, and I did myself a favor of taking 3 months off of work. I just got with my business partner. I'm like, I'll fulfill consultations but I gotta just tap out. And so for about 3 months, I just had to realign myself with what my life is about. I started teaching myself how to play bass guitar. Just started finding things that in life that were enjoyable. Made some friends because I had been so invested in work that I had let all of my friendships die. And so I went and made some good friends.
That happens. That tends to happen. It really screws up relationships. Even doing a show like this ruins relationships because you're so focused and everyone is kind of pushed away.
Yeah, and especially where that focus is in your own mind, and so that's the thing you want to talk to people about, or you want to, that you kind of everybody else is just talking about nonsense compared to the things that are going on in my mind often. So
well, hold that thought. Since you're talking about necromancy and you're spending all this time. Obviously, the dead are like almost like if they're on Twitter. They're in your ear. There's all these spirits around. I mean, what else is there to do except talk to each other in the afterworld? So that must annoy you as well, hearing all this chatter going on.
So at first you've got to wrangle it. I've got a lot of so I do a lot of cleansings in my home and banishings and sage smudging and stuff like that.
Right.
So anything that's not intentionally bound to an object, like an idol. I've got different plastic masks on the wall. So a little fun thing for people at home: if you get a plastic mask and glue or tape some obsidian to the back of the eyes, hang it on the wall, that mask is going to be a home to spirits, and so spirits are going to come through that and just, like you say, start talking to you.
Ooh.
So I do have portals for things like that the spirits can come talk to me, and at first, almost every time, for some reason, they're really nasty. They're really, I don't know, they kind of try to taunt you at first. And so really what I'll do is I'll just come in here and light some candles and just sit with them, and I'll let them kind of go for a minute. It's almost like you let the kid have the tantrum, and then once it's out of energy, then you kind of say, okay, that's not going to be tolerated anymore. And so you basically just have that kind of grown-up conversation with the spirits, and they do come to respect you, but you do have to let them go through the moment. It's the exact same thing. I know this is probably going to sound far out for most people, but this is the exact same thing that you get when you first start calling demons. That the first demon that comes up in front of you, it does challenge you and try to confront you. And the key to all of these is, don't fall for the bait. Don't let yourself get baited into anger or emotion. Just calmly let them do their thing. Let them rail and get their energy out. And once they've done that, then you just assert your will calmly, with respect, but with authority.
Ah, I see. You just take control after they waste all their energy right away.
Yeah. You've got to let them you've got to hold the space for them, and that's one of the most important things for sure. Is just hold the space for them, and I will get a lot of if I pass by cemeteries or whatever. Sometimes I'll have a wandering spirit voice that'll pop out to me, or I'll see a full on visualization. I was walking out of the cemetery at one point, and I felt a gust of wind kind of from behind me, and I looked behind, and for just a split second saw a woman in the air as if she was flying, but she was holding still. Just her body was like being pushed back by wind, and she was flying towards me. And it was just a split second, and then it disappeared. And it was as real as day for sure.
You seem to be a medium of sorts.
Yeah, I seem to be.
Pretty wild. By the way, Eric, did any of these news outlets ever ask you for any comment? By the way.
Yes. Okay. So great question. Yes, right away they did. About it was like 3 days, I think, before they were going to release this report. I got an email from the author from the BBC, from the so-called journalist, saying that here's the things we're accusing you of. Do you have any comment? And I looked at that and summarized it and went, okay, this is they're not interested in my point of view. They've already determined what the outcome of
They've already
this
painted
is.
you in such a light already, is what you're saying. I see.
You know, because that really, I had that kind of thought of going, I wish I could just go to these people, go find out their home addresses, and go sit down with them and talk to them because they're wrong. And then it occurred to me they don't care. They're not looking for the story. They're not looking for the truth. They're not looking for the truth. They're looking for the story. They're just looking for, and specifically, they're looking for a sensational thing they can use. So there is a really, when I say that we're really, I think, just entering into a Satanic Panic 2.0.
Satanic Panic 2.0, right?
Yeah, this is one part of it. Another part is every single black magician, white magician, witch, everybody that I know that is anyhow associated with magic is being throttled on YouTube, either kicked off or their accounts are being what do they call it, shadow banned?
Shadow banned, yeah.
And then seeing it outside of this community, the UFO community is experiencing something very similar. That just about every community you look into that's communities of free thinkers, people who are asking questions, they're being shut down. And I think this is, first off, I think there's a general wave of tyranny that we're seeing. I mean, we all lived through COVID and saw everybody was taking notes on what was happening through that social experiment. And I think we're just seeing the beginning.
Yeah, we're just barely seeing that happen. We're living the fruits of its labor, no doubt.
Yeah. No, as I've started seeing, there's now in the UK there are specific divisions that are going to be investigating satanic and occult crimes. So more or less, the United Kingdom is now going to have witch hunters that are working for the police.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so I started looking at what's going on the global scale. Why is this a problem? And so I looked at where it's always been a problem is Iran, and they're very vocal about their rejection of Satanism and witchcraft, and with that they gave me a lot of really good information. The biggest piece is that the reason that witchcraft is illegal is because it gives people hope of their own destiny. That you shouldn't have a hope for your own destiny. You shouldn't have any control over that. That's for the state and for God to decide. That's not for you. And that's what black magic actually does. At its core, I believe that it does give you the power to take control of your own destiny. But even if it didn't, the very hope that you can control your destiny is forbidden by these forces.
Right. No doubt. And furthermore, if someone is caught murdering someone and there was a Bible nearby, does that mean that God is responsible?
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Well, and here's if this fellow had actually read my Grimoire of Lucifuge, in which I do lay out how to make a pact to Lucifuge, I say very clearly in that, do not harm the innocent, do not harm anyone else. And I made it very, very clear in there. He would also have the instructions of not asking for stupid stuff in his pact. So he didn't even have a book nearby him. He had nothing even close to a connection at all.
And according to this article, it says in October 2017, Daniel, then aged 15, was referred to the government's counter-extremism program, prevention or some shit like that. So obviously he was already troubled way before any of this got into his head.
Well, and okay, so here's the fun little thing to jump into the conspiracy hole a little bit. Isn't it really interesting how all these mass shooters and these killers have already had contact with authorities?
It's a bit of a strange pattern. The authorities already know so much about you, yet they don't do anything to stop you to do anything, really. They just have you on the list, but it's like, well, who cares? We don't have enough resources to follow you around, but we do have a record on everything about you. It's kind of strange, right?
And that I think that take is even more benevolent than I would say. That they see a fellow like this Hussein, they say it's just a matter of time before he does this. If there's not a killing, what are the police out there for? If there's not a good rape, what are the police out there for? Go ahead and let him do his thing. In fact, encourage him. We saw what was happening with the Whitmer case. That the federal government is there egging on and encouraging people to commit crimes to justify their own existence.
Absolutely, and the FBI has been known to do this. That's what they sort of do. If
That
you
is,
look it
yeah.
up, I mean, they did that to a pizza guy once. They were trying to get him to commit suicide and blow people up, and the fact that he didn't do it, he didn't comply. He actually got arrested for it.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a lot of examples of the feds doing these sort of things. But again, going back to this guy Daniel, he apparently considered himself an Aryan, by the way, and was considered an extreme right winger. And I couldn't find anything in that article that would prove
this
it.
is a funny thing though. Daniel Hussein.
Daniel Hussein, yeah.
Daniel Hussein, and I've seen pictures of this kid, but he's an Aryan.
Well, he considers himself an Aryan, yeah.
No, nobody else in the world would consider him an Aryan.
Well, I mean, that's the same way I see people that say they identify as a cat and or whatever.
Yeah, no, that's
no different.
But but you just hit on something really interesting though. So I hired myself a PR team and I hired myself some lawyers and I was going to sue the BBC. Turns out that's almost impossible to do unless you've got Johnny Depp money. And I do not. And so
you don't own an island, unfortunately.
No, I don't. Not yet.
Soon.
Still working on it.
Right.
Yeah. So in the meantime, I just hired myself a meager regular law firm and had several consultations with them. They looked into the case. They looked into the articles and they said, okay, because I was coming at it from, this is religious persecution. This is, this is a witch burning. And he said, no, you're not seeing it right. You think this is religious. It's not. It's political. No, what do you mean? I'm not political. I'm an anarchist. I don't care about the sides. And he goes, no. They're not just saying that you're a Satanist and that this guy's a Satanist. They're trying to connect you to neo-Nazism and fascism.
That's what it was. So the person who wrote this already is probably someone that leans left and had it out for the opposing side. I get it now. And by the way, I'm not affiliated to any political group. I'm not someone who's on the left or on the right. I call them all out.
Yeah, but neither am I. So I vote in. I vote in every election that I can vote in, and I write in no confidence everywhere I can write in no confidence, just to let them know we don't have confidence in you. We know it's a game. We know it's a rig. But I'm going to be honest with you. If Donald Trump runs again, I think I'm going to vote for him just to see how much weirder things can get. Because it's really entertaining to see how one person can stir the pot so much.
I don't disagree with you on that. I always found him to be entertaining. I didn't really like him too much. I always saw him as sort of like this reality TV star. I blame him for creating reality TV, though. It was always Donald Trump, the reality star. That's the way I've always envisioned him, basically. But I don't hate the guy. I've always been entertained by him, and I've always said, that's someone that I would drink a beer with. Would I be drinking a beer with Biden? Probably not. But would I smoke crack with Hunter Biden? Probably. Who knows? I'm just saying. I'm just being honest. I don't know.
Yeah. And that I'm gonna say it. That poor guy, Hunter Biden. Oof. He's just in. I haven't gone looking for things, but just in passing, seeing some of the video, and it's like, leave this poor guy alone. He's just trying to smoke some crack in the bathtub, for hell's sake.
Yeah, he's just smoking crack, folks.
Yeah, right.
Leave him alone.
Because if y'all haven't smoked crack in a sauna, I really recommend it. But in countries where that's legal.
Right. It's unfortunate, though. I mean, I always said this. If he was actually running for president, people would actually vote for him.
Yeah,
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and that is the so the leaders that come to represent us are basically projections of the mass consciousness, and so all of our consciousness comes together and puts into a body the person who's going to represent us. And so we look at the figures that we've had, and that's a really intense commentary on the public.
Right. It's a reflection.
And the fact, I think the fun thing with Donald Trump is he is a complete clown. And for a complete clown to get in that stage, it does show we're being ruled by clowns.
I agree. I'm not going to deny that at all. It's been entertaining when he was around, and I definitely do miss him being the president, no doubt.
Yeah. No, it's entertaining. Well, and this is the sad fact of it, though, is There was a time when the president was somebody that was admired.
Someone that was respectable.
Yeah, he came on the radio and you sat and you got your whole family around because you wanted to hear what he had to say. And those times I've not experienced that in my lifetime.
Or are they all actors? I mean, they say JFK was the last real president we've ever had.
I could believe that. Well, so okay, let's jump on this little fun thing. JFK, there seemed to be what looked very much like a coup when JFK was assassinated. That one power party took over through killing the president and took over power at that point. And it's not Republican versus Democrat. It's whoever controls both of those then assumed power. Now, right now, we have something that's really interesting. That's another sign of a similar type of turning, with the names of places being changed, statues being torn down,
history being rewritten. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. This only happens in history. This only happens when one empire topples another, and so in the background, one empire is toppling another at this very moment.
That's exactly what's going on. And that's why I always beg the question, how will history remember this point in time? I'm not really sure how the historians are going to write about it, but it sure will be entertaining. No doubt.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
And by the way, for the record, I personally don't think you should be held responsible for someone else's actions, by the way, Eric.
Oh, thank you. So neither does, I appreciate that, and neither does any rational person, neither does an actual court. I mean, Daniel Hussein pled guilty. He was found guilty. He's now doing, I guess 35 meager years for being guilty of doing this. I had nothing to do with that, and no court has found otherwise. So what was interesting was when the news circulated, because I had friends in Germany and in Italy that were calling me up saying, "Hey, bud, I just saw you on the local news." I was like, "Oh, wow, that's nuts." Yeah. But then it started happening here. Where I guess Fox News came to my door, knocked on my door when I wasn't home, and said, "Oh, well, he said he wanted to be open, but he's not here." But they actually called the police department, the local sheriffs, and laid out their case and said, "Here's this." And the sheriff's response that they actually published in their video was, "There's no crime here. For us to get involved, this person would have to have done something illegal." And it's like, okay, that 100%, there it is. Not that the only people that have stretched this to make it sound like what they wanted it to sound like were people that had an agenda.
It was the BBC.
And again, that's what I thought at first. It's the BBC. They've gone wild. But the fact that the article was paid for,
there's a little bit more. I mean, it is the BBC, but there's also who's paying for this thing as well. That's really the
and there are a lot of coalitions that are forming in the UK and the US that are trying to make an active link between Satanism and the occult and neo-Nazism. Because if they do that, then they can say that anybody who's practicing alternative religion is then a Nazi and a terrorist. So that's the link, to the point of that one of the groups that they're really concerned of, a group that I came across their works. This is the Temple of Blood. They're a satanic group they are involved in terrorism, or they promote terrorism. I came across their stuff on the internet, looked at it, went, okay, well that's craziness, and looked the other way when kept walking down the road. But I became aware of them. Turns out that they were being funded completely by the FBI. That the FBI was actually funding their publishing house. They were putting the main guy in charge of running a neo-Nazi vampire satanic cult in order to make all these connections. And that guy's just a dude that's just chilling at home, smoking his bong, collecting hundreds of thousands of dollars from the FBI to run this operation. Okay, there is an absolute effort being made to link up anybody who's practicing occultism with something neo-Nazi or terroristic. There is a really strong push right now to identify people as being white nationalists or having, some engagement with white pride that really have not. They tried to put that on Alex Jones as well, and so that's not a really surprising tactic at this point. But I think for the most part, it does just need to be ignored. And I think to kind of wrap up, one of my biggest takeaways from my shutdown is it did force me, and it should force you to take a step outside of the virtual world and re-engage with the real world, because this is where it's all happening. This is where I can actually come and make a value in people's lives and make money from making that value, have the benefit and joy of actually experiencing things in the real world versus the misery of scrolling through Facebook.
Yes, good point there. And yes, the group you were linked to was a neo-Nazi group, Order of Nine Angels, they're saying.
Yeah. Order of Nine Angels is Order of Nine Angles is they started out as a satanic group, and then over time they started putting out more and more neo-Nazi stuff. Now I've got no link to those guys other than, again, just seeing their information online, reading their manuscripts online, just like I was with everything, reading every Catholic exorcism manuscript I could get, every single piece of information. So I read probably every single thing that they've ever written and didn't find much of it that was very useful. And so just went on my way again down the road to more interesting things. So I actually never had any involvement with the Order of Nine Angles. They just happened to be a satanic group that everybody that's actually read anything about Satanism on the internet has come across the Order of Nine Angles. And so they just made that leap because they could make it.
Understood. Well, there's so much to talk about here, Eric, but we're going to have to wrap it up here, unfortunately. But again, Thank you so much for being a part of the program. We will do it again very shortly. I will definitely bring you back on here. We'll do part 2 of this.
Absolutely. Sounds great, Michael.
Thank you so much. Anything to plug before I cut you loose?
Everybody can just go check out my website at becomealivinggod.com. And, I've got all my books, video courses, free newsletters, and articles that you can check out. You can also check me out on Odyssey, Odyssee, so Odyssey at EA Koetting. I do a weekly live chat on Wednesdays that you can tune in for. Pop in the chat, ask me any question you want, and we'll just have a conversation there.
Very nice. Once again, thank you so much for being a part of the program. We'll do it again, Eric. Take care.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Good night, my friend. I really hate to cut that interview short, but it wasn't my fault. Time was against us here, folks, and I apologize. I really did want to go over the time limit here, but we were pretty much hard pressed on time. And I apologize for that. There's so many points that Eric brought up, or Mr. E.A. Koetting, as I like to refer to him as. Many points that he mentioned that I really wanted to get into it with him, but the lack of time just really screwed up this whole thing. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes, but he will return. And man, there were so many different questions I forgot to ask. Like, where did he obtain this information about sacrifice? And some of the books he's written about, he does talk about sacrifice. So I was just kind of wondering where he might have obtained this sort of information. And yes, modern day sacrifice still exists to this day. It may not be out in the open, but it certainly does happen in modern times. And, I did want to know his relationship with the Dark Lord, Satan. And how did he develop this relationship with Satan, as they say? I want to know if he would recommend a relationship with Satan, if he finds that beneficial. Is there another satanic panic on the rise? You remember, QAnon talked about Satanism and blood rituals. You remember all that? Was QAnon lying? I would say a lot of it is nonsense, but there is some truth mixed in there. And that's what a good psyop is all about. A mixture of religion and Satanism and blood rituals and child trafficking and whatnot. Pretty wild stuff. Eric touched upon some interesting points. I wish I could have got into it with him, but of course, as I talked about Operation Mockingbird by the CIA, you know what they were all about. We'll do more shows during the week, and they'll be live. We'll do more live shows during the week for you coming up here. By the way, ever since that Michael Aquino interview, the very first time he was on the show, people were accusing me of this and that and the other. Accusing me of being a fad. Accusing me of worshipping the devil. Nothing could be further from the truth, folks. I don't know why people go to that right away, but what can you do? People are going to have their own interpretation of you no matter what. And it's never bothered me. You know, you could think anything you want about me, it's all good. It's all fun and fair, in my opinion. As soon as this little red light goes on, it's open season on anything, really. Including myself. I mean, it's all good. I get it. If you'd like and want more bonus material, please go to patreon.com/Michael Decon. Or if you want merchandise, we do sell merchandise. Go to michaeldecon.com/shop, and that's where you'll find it. My goodness, that was fantastic. We will definitely have to do it again. I apologize for keeping this one short, but time is not on our side, my friends. We were here for a good time, not a long time. Once again, thank you for being you. And with that said, the world is a mysterious place, and life itself is a mystery. Until next time, good night.